Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for being here. Whether you're brand new to the channel, if so, welcome. Or if you're a usual suspect and you continue to find this channel somehow, and the thumbs up button because it's been disappearing on a lot of people, but it is what it is. Vicky Roberts, thank you very much for the mean bean. And Merry Christmas to you as well. So, who's ready for some good news this morning? Yep. It sucks to be you. I do not come with good news this morning. It is what it is. At least I'm telling you out of the gates, right? We're going to talk about the biggest crash of our lifetime. That is a direct quote from U.S. economist Harry Dent. Had several people send this over on Patreon. You folks know who you are. Received a lot of intel on the coming crash, and experts, smart people when it comes to money, not random YouTubers, okay, are all saying the same thing. They're just saying it in different ways. They're using different wording and stuff like this. Blockchain Backer on YouTube, who's wildly popular, is saying basically the same thing. Biggest crash of our lifetime is coming in 2024. CNBC, the economists over there, remember they keep talking about that soft landing, the Fed. Oh, we're gearing up for a soft landing. First, there was no inflation and there was no problem. Then, when they couldn't hide that anymore, we're just going to bring it in for a soft landing. Now, CNBC, the economists over there, are saying it's going to be a bumpy landing in 2024. Markets Insider, the folks over there, say there is a severe recession coming in 2024. Many of the experts and many of you folks as well who have sent the intel over, again, thank y'all, are pointing to March. Now, I don't know how accurate that is. Again, I'm on YouTube. I am not a market analyst. I'm just basing this off of what the smart people out there, in that area of expertise are saying. A lot of them are pointing to March of 2024. No one really knows what to call it. The deeper you dive on the subject, again, soft landing, bumpy landing, biggest crash of our lifetime, severe recession, Great Depression, silent depression. Everybody's using all kinds of terminology, but they know it's going to be bad. That seems to be the underlying factor in every single article that I've read. All of the smart people know bad times are coming in 2024. I told you, wasn't good news, but we're going to talk this morning on what you can do as a prepper. Because look, if we have a recession, a severe recession, if we experience the biggest crash of our lifetime, there's not a lot that you can do to stop that from coming. Like the way I look at it, the way my mind works, which this ain't a perfect analogy by any means. This is just a huge tidal wave that's coming in that's going to smash everything. Okay, you can't stop the tidal wave from coming, but you can kind of board your home up. Again, analogy, right? You don't necessarily have to board it up physically unless zombies are coming or the blue hairs or something like that. But I digress. You get what I'm saying. You can get your own house in order. What can you do to kind of ride out that big tidal wave that's coming, based on these experts? You can learn to budget. A lot of people don't have budgets, and we did not have a budget when we first got married. First few years of marriage, we didn't know. um I'm not using this as a cop out or anything. It's our fault, but it's not like they teach it in schools anymore. They kind of just throw graduates out into the wild and you figure it out on your own, unless you've got somebody in your life to explain budgeting to you. We did not have that. So we had to learn the hard way. We took on credit card debt and stuff, and it took us a while to pay all that off and get the credit right and stuff like this. And this is very hard to do. All right. This is solid advice, but again, very hard to do in the economy right now because stuff costs a lot more. Can I get an amen on that? Right. You can try to build up an emergency fund. Again, very hard to do. They say they want you to have, I think, 3 to 6 months worth of all of your bills in an emergency fund. And that's going to be unrealistic for a lot of people. Again, I'm just a dude sitting in a bunker, but try to have something because things are going to pop up. Things are going to cost more in 2024. Okay. That's one guarantee that I can give you this morning. Things are going to cost more. The price of gasoline may go down because it's an election tactic and yada, yada, yada. Another conversation for another day. But a lot of your other stuff is going to cost more. Your electric bill, your utilities, your heating oil, stuff like this is going to cost more. I believe food is going to continue to go up and up. You can sell off unwanted stuff. Everybody listening and watching has unwanted stuff. You got stuff laying around that maybe somebody else on your Facebook marketplace or something would be interested in. It's a good way to make a little bit of extra side money. You don't really have to become a minimalist, so to speak, but everybody's got stuff sitting around, and that's hard for me to admit as a retro gaming guy. It is, but I've sold some of my collection off this past year. Brings a tear to my eye when I think about the old TurboGrafx 16 that's no longer here. Avoid new debt. And again, this is going to be hard for some people to do, okay? Because some people are living on debt right now and they're accruing debt month to month to try and survive. I get it. I do. I totally get it. It's Biden's economy, right? Bidenomics or whatever it's called. But the point is, the more debt that you're taking on right now, the tougher it's going to be on you in 2024. So if at all possible, try not to take on new debt unless it's, let me say this with an asterisk, unless it's something that's going to pay for itself over time. You know what I mean? You're a farmer, you need new equipment, you need to use credit to get said equipment. It's going to help you in the long term. Okay, that makes sense. You know, you find an ideal piece of property, smaller piece of property, you're gonna have to, you want to make that transition into homesteading, but you don't have all the money up front, right? That's the situation for most of us. Yeah, you can get it on credit if it's going to pay for itself over time. Time to make that decision, and this is going to split the chat in half probably, I promise you, but it's time to make that decision because if we know a crash is coming in 2024, or we believe there's a crash coming, sometime in 2024, we know that paper fiat currency ain't gonna hold up, and especially if it's sitting in a bank somewhere. So you gotta make that decision, and you gotta stick to your guns on it. Crypto blockchain technology versus precious metals that you can hold in your hand, okay? I'm not dogging on crypto. I'm just a fan of precious metals, gold and silver, specifically silver, because it's a lot cheaper to stack, to be honest with you. But precious metals can mean other things, right? Brass, commodities, physical commodities. Are you going to invest in that? Survival food, maybe. Uh, Again, gear and stuff that you know that you're going to need in 2024, or blockchain. Are you going to put your money into crypto? Expect inflation. Inflation is going to be bad in 2024, with or without a crash. With a crash, going to be much, much, much worse. Okay, but expect inflation. So what does that mean? If you know things are going to cost more and you can afford to buy extra now, or you can afford to set extra money aside right now, it makes sense to do that. If food costs more in 2024, which again it probably will, we have a lot of food, right? So we can pull from that food and that's going to help out. That's going to kind of stabilize the grocery bill. And as I was telling the crowd the other morning, I think on the exclusive stream, it ain't always going to be what I want to eat or what my kids want to eat necessarily, but we're not starving to death. You know what I'm saying? And finally, remain gray. Meaning, if you do have a lot of money sitting around and you're not going to be necessarily hurting in any way, shape, or form, inflation just doesn't bother you. You can still go out and you can still buy whatever you want to, whatever you're fancy. Be discreet about it. and understand that you're going to be surrounded by people that don't have that luxury, and they're going to be it's not going to be a nice place. You know what I mean? That's not a good situation for you to put yourself into. Pay attention to how much money you're spending in the stores. I get some people are going to say they don't care, they strap up and stuff, but realistically, if somebody wants what you have, they'll follow you home. They'll case the place. They'll figure out when you're not there. And then you might experience a break-in or a home invasion or something like that. If we do experience a crash like they're calling for, okay, if again, I don't know this for sure, but they seem to be expecting one big time. Everybody but Biden and the Fed at this point is expecting a crash. I don't know what the White House is thinking, but whoever knows what the White House is thinking. Here are some telltale signs. One we're seeing right now, and I'm going to go over that in a second. Unemployment rates will rise. That'll be the first big indication, okay? Not we don't have enough employees necessarily, but jobs will stop hiring. They'll cease hiring because they're not making any money, and they'll actually slash jobs and hours. If you see that, you know we're probably headed into one, okay? Inflation will get crazy. It's already crazy. I get it, y'all. I get it. It's already crazy, but nothing compared to what it would be if we hit a deep recession or worse, or severe recession, as one person had called it. Defaults on debts and loans. So people that are living on credit cards and they've taken out loans, they begin to default. This is a telltale sign. And let me explain to you, we're seeing one right now. Student loan debt. I have student loan debt for anybody that doesn't know, and I'm paying it back month to month, as we can afford it. I'm on a nice little spiffy little government payback plan or whatever with interest, I might add. But I'm gonna get mad if I keep talking about that. But anyway, a report just released this week. The US government is kind of in panic mode because 40% of the students out there that were due to start payback this previous month didn't pay anything back. 40% of all student debt out there, the people just are throwing their hands up and saying, "Hey, we can't pay it. We're not going to pay it. We shouldn't have to pay it. This is ridiculous." You know the arguments, right? They're sitting around waiting on maybe Biden to relieve it all or something. I don't know. I'm trying to pay the interest down and stuff so it's affordable. Finally, we're seeing a little bit of this as well. Let me know if you're seeing it in your particular area. Seems to be happening here. The home market and the property, there was like this big craze. People were buying houses during the pandemic, scooping up property. That has cooled off big time in this area. Right now, they can't give houses away, it seems like, and property and stuff. Because again, people just don't have the extra money. They're not taking on the extra debt, or they've already defaulted on stuff. The point I'm trying to make this morning, and hopefully y'all agree with this, maybe not, but Americans by and large are not ready for what's coming. If we have a crash next year, especially in March, I don't know why they're pinpointing March. There's probably a reason for it. It's probably a quarterly thing or something. I don't know. I'm not an economist, but if we do see a crash, Americans are not prepared for that. They are not expecting it for the most part. I was telling the crowd yesterday, based on the US debt, the trillions that we owe, if we were to stop spending right now and not add any US debt, all right, each US citizen out there, everybody watching this that's in the US is on the hook for $100,000 plus. This is on top of the taxes you're already paying. This is on top of everything else the government is already robbing from you. You're still on the hook for $100,000 plus each individual citizen. And that is not going to work out well. At some point, we're going to see a crash. You know what I'm saying? That's not something you can print your way out of, because the more you print, the worse it gets, right? But that's just not something that people are going to be able to pay back. The government can never pull this money from the population. It's just too much money. It's too far gone. Um, I think and this is really bad if this comes to fruition. I believe if it collapses, if it begins to collapse, our government is going to introduce even more socialism programs here in the United States. We saw this with the Great Depression. All right. FDR created the New Deal for anybody that doesn't know. And it seems to work short term. It puts people back to work. The economy kind of gets revitalized for a little while. But I would argue this morning, y'all let me know what you think, that the New Deal and the socialism programs that were introduced by FDR actually did a lot of long-term damage. We're in the condition that we are right now, partially because of these programs. And this has really led to a lot of people an unwillingness to work and earn it. They would just rather sit around. Even he, I don't think, envisioned that you were going to have illegals squatting and not earning it. But a lot of U.S. citizens abuse these programs as well. So, my advice this morning, focus on what you can control. All right. Again, you cannot control the tidal wave that's coming, but you can focus on your own house. It will be harder to prep in 2024. That's a prediction. It's not going to be impossible, but it will be harder. And here's why. I think there are more people prepping than anyone realizes. Um, Mainstream media during the pandemic turned a lot of people onto prepping that were not prepping prior. They would run a lot of articles and they did a lot of news and documentaries and things on preppers, and it was appealing to the folks during that time. But there's also this huge movement on the left. A lot of liberals have now gotten into prepping. Y'all can Google that. There's articles all over the place. Just recently, they've been turned on to prepping. So there are more preppers on the way. And that's a good thing. You want people to be prepared and not be zombies for sure. But it also means that the stuff that we typically stack and that we target in stores and stuff, it's going to be in a higher demand, which is going to drive up the cost. It's going to drive down the supply. All right. So consider this your head start, your warning or your head start, if you will, because this would mean that you only have a few months until it all breaks loose. If they're correct about March, again, we've got a little over 3 months until chaos ensues financially and we start to see this huge demand on prepping items. All right. If you can afford to, all right, do it now. Get it now. Get it at a lower price. Get it to where you're not out in a bidding war, commercially speaking, with other people who are brand new and they're on fire for prepping all of a sudden. Okay. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Seriously. Till next time, y'all take care. God bless.